Welcome to the Sustainability in Wine Country online series hosted by Cork and Fork in Logan Circle, Washington, D.C. My name is Antoinette Londejean, and it is a pleasure to be with you today. This is the second masterclass in a growing series focusing on sustainability in viticulture. We will start this class with a brief introduction, followed by our guest speaker's presentation. The first masterclass of this series addressed the efforts made by New Zealand wine growers and their sustainability movement. Today, we will hear from Dr. Stephanie Bolton, the Lodi Rules Sustainable Winegrowing Director. In 2016, the Lodi Winegrape Commission announced the appointment of Dr. Stephanie Bolton to her position. Stephanie has a history of building strong relationships within the wine industry, having earned a Ph.D. in Plant Pathology from the University of Georgia. Stephanie also holds a master's degree in food science from the University of Georgia and a bachelor's degree in chemistry from Wake Forest University. She has also worked at Gordon Brothers Cellars in Washington State and spent time in Tuscany educating American university students on viticulture and enology practices as part of a study abroad program. Also joining us this evening is Chris Storm. Chris is the Director of Viticulture for Vino Farms, and he has been involved in the Lodi Rules program since the beginning. We are excited to introduce you to Stephanie and to begin the presentation. Thank you to all for viewing and being a part of this Sustainability in Wine Country series. We hope you enjoy it. Stephanie, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Antoinette. So thanks so much for having us. We're really impressed with the work that you're doing in DC to educate others about sustainable wine growing, and are really happy to participate this evening. Feel free to type any questions that you may have in the chat box on Zoom, and with two of us, we should be able to answer those as we go along. So Chris and I, and one second. Okay, there we go. Sorry, it's giving me lots of messages on our end. So Chris and I are zooming in, as Antoinette said, from Lodi, California, where 1/5 of California's wine grapes are grown, and it's also the home and headquarters of the Lodi Rules program. So in case you don't know, we're just south of Sacramento and we're just east of San Francisco. We'd love to have you visit us when you're ready for travel. As Antoinette said, I work for the Lodi Winegrape Commission, which was established in 1991, and is an organization funded by our community of 750 growers, farming about 90,000 acres of vineyards. We only have 85 wineries here, so if you have a dream of starting a winery one day, there is absolutely room for that dream to be realized in Lodi. Most of our grapes are sold to wine grape buyers outside of the region, and we're tasked with promotion, research, and education for our wine growing community. We created the Lodi Rules Sustainable Winegrowing Program over 15 years ago because our families wanted to farm more responsibly to ensure that farming could carry on for future generations. Sustainability is one of our core values, and it has been all along. In America, our definition of sustainable agriculture means farming in a way that is environmentally and socially responsible while also being economically profitable. We really like Wendell Berry's simple definition of sustainability. A sustainable agriculture does not deplete people or soils. Our certification process is voluntary, rigorous, based in science, and third-party certified and audited on an annual basis. Lodi Rules growers make up an innovative community with a history and commitment to farming quality wine grapes through the implementation of viticulture practices that balance those environmental, social, and economic goals. Lodi Rules is designed to communicate our commitment to sustainable ag to wineries and to the general public, which is what we're doing right now. The Lodi Rules promotes wine grower adoption of over 100 sustainability practices, which we call standards. The standards were first accredited by a third-party nonprofit in 2005, and they are likely the most thoroughly and rigorously vetted set of sustainability practices in California's viticulture history. All these standards have been peer-reviewed by farmers, world-renowned scientists, members of the academic community, and environmental organizations, and we continue to review them constantly. The standards are the backbone of the program, and these are organized into 6 main topics or chapters. So we have business management, human resources management, ecosystem management, soil management, water management, and pest management. Every single standard has to meet 3 criteria. First, it is measurable. Second, it addresses at least one of those 3 aspects of sustainability. And 3, it is economically feasible to implement. Each standard also has a point value attached to it, and we'll show you some examples now. The business management chapter includes having a written vision plan, succession plan, risk management plan, and true operating budget. This chapter also includes neighbor relations, efficiency, and of course, recycling. The human resources chapter ensures that employees understand their jobs and that safety is a top priority. As employers, we want people to enjoy working for us. Plus, we need to attract labor in this competitive environment in order to be successful. Many Lodi Rules growers have employees who have been with them for decades, such as Esteban, pictured here. Our ecosystem chapter includes the management of cover crops, surface water, woodlands and trees, riparian habitat, and wildlife. It's not just about the grapevines. We are seeing greater biodiversity come into our vineyards again. One of our longtime Lodi Rules farmers said that he's seen different wildlife pass through his vineyard that he hasn't seen in decades. And he credits the Lodi Rules program for that. Soil is the foundation of a vineyard and must be cared for with deep respect. This chapter makes sure that growers pay close attention to soil nutrients, conservation, organic matter, and moisture. The record keeping involved with certification helps growers measure soil regeneration over time. And I think this is a good time to note that as you delve into the world of conservation farming, you're going to hear many different terms such as regenerative ag, climate positive farming, etc. And we caution you to keep your eyes open and not be too dazzled by fancy words. Like Antoinette does, which I can tell from her education materials that she shared with me, always check out the science and the rigor of any program that may carry a logo or a seal. If you go back to our standards, for example, you'll find that many of our Lodi Rules farming practices regenerate the soil, aid the farmer with climate adaptation, reduce greenhouse gases, etc. So for example, even though the phrase greenhouse gas reduction may not be in the standard practice, the practices themselves, such as reducing tractor passes, do reduce those greenhouse gas emissions over time. So we always encourage people to go back to the science and really look at the program, which is why our materials are very transparent and available to the public. Water efficiency and quality are crucial parts of any sustainable vineyard. Like with soil management, measurements such as irrigation, distribution, uniformity ensure that the efficiency that the grower believes they have is actually what is true. Otherwise, they know that it needs improvement. And so Lodi Rules program originated from a grassroots IPM or integrated pest management outreach program. Pest management is our largest chapter. Farmers set economic thresholds for pests and diseases and use these guidelines rather than a calendar schedule for treatment. Spot treatments, meaning treating only a portion of the vineyard that is having a problem, are encouraged, along with biocontrol. You can see these barn owls pictured here, and proper calibration of equipment. So those barn owls help us with our gopher and rodent control. To become certified, farmers must prove that they earn 50% of the available points within each of these topics or chapters and 70% of the total points overall. We wanted this flexibility because there are a lot of differences in vineyard management and differences in challenges that the farmers each face while preserving the rigor of the program. So these standards are constantly reviewed and improved by a committee whom I meet with often and who Chris is part of. Our farmers are constantly telling us how the program helps them, and improving quality is an important outcome, which I'm sure that you all appreciate. So Chris, I don't know if you want to chime in on any of these wine grape quality parameters that the program helps with, or if you can say how the program has helped with Vino Farms and their business model and just in their farming overall.
That's a lot of questions, Stephanie. Well, the Lodi Rules program forces us to pay closer attention to everything we do in the vineyard. Stephanie mentioned pest management to soil management. And soil management is really one of the things that I'm keen to improve. So if you can think about our climate and what causes heat in a vineyard, and it's the stuff coming from the sun, but it's also what's reflected off the soil. And heat is good because it helps the grapes sugar at night. It adds some color, potentially adds some color to the skins, but it also can add sort of a flabby flavor to the grapes. If it's too hot, you can bleach out the skins if there's too much sunlight. So for those reasons, having ground cover cools the vineyard, makes it a more pleasant place to actually work. And you're rewarded for having ground cover, what we call cover crops in a vineyard. And so I think something very simple is planting another plant in the vine middles instead of just disking it and turning it to soil, just having dirt down there or soil down there is a very easy, quick change. But it was a big change for a lot of the growers around here who historically saw a weed as something, or any kind of vegetation other than a grape as a weed. So for our vineyard, or the vineyards that I manage, we cover crop we cover crop 100% of our vineyards during the winter, and maybe 50 to 80% of that continues to have cover crop through the rest of the season. And every year we cover crop more and leave that cover crop, that vegetation inside the vineyard, mow it down for a longer period and in more vineyards or more blocks. Can't remember what the other longer question was, but that was one example of.
I just wanted you to give one example of the value you found from the sustainability program, and the cover crops is a fantastic example. And they also help with water penetration. So the little rainwater we do get actually absorbs better into the soil. There's so many benefits there. Habitat for some of your beneficial insects, which we're going to talk about soon. So that was great, Chris. Thank you. Chris is offering our farmer perspective today. All right, so now that we all have a basic understanding of the Lodi Rules program, we thought that it would be fun and current to share 10 exciting things that are happening in our program right now. You know, we give these presentations all the time, but it's always fun to give a unique presentation just for your viewers with some of the things that we're most excited about. So number one, we're building monarch butterfly habitat. So as you all are probably aware, unfortunately, the Western monarch population has declined by more than 99%, and actually even the latest numbers in 2020 were very dire. And so we've teamed up with the Xerces Society, an excellent nonprofit organization focused on invertebrates. If you haven't heard of them, go check them out. And the Xerces Society taught us that our farmland is actually this amazing corridor for the Western monarch's migration pattern. And if we can plant hedgerows along this corridor, hedgerows are a row of California native species plants that offer habitat for insects and pollinators and monarchs. And so it's beneficial to the farmers to plant these hedgerows, and it's also really helpful for that monarch butterfly. And so the more hedgerows we could get planted, the better, according to the Xerces Society. So we've done a lot of workshops on teaching the farmers the benefits of those hedgerows. And to date, Xerces has created more than 26 miles of hedgerow habitat on farms in California. One of our farmers alone planted 4 miles of hedgerows himself, and he's been able to reduce his pesticide use thanks to the increase he's seen in beneficial insects, which act as parasites and predators of pests. So pretty exciting news. And this is just a fun statistic that we found in one of the Xerces books about how people don't know it, but the beneficial insects offer billions of dollars annually in America for pest control. And that means lower amounts of pesticides if you have those beneficial insects taking care of the pests. Number two, we're connecting with farmers from all over the world. So Susie Vasquez is pictured here, and she had a connection to this wonderful group of Uruguayan farmers. So this picture represents probably almost all of the acreage of vineyards in Uruguay. These were all the big farmers, and they were attracted to come to Lodi last week because of the Lodi Rules program. They want to develop a sustainable wine growing program for Uruguay, and so they visited us to have this conversation. It was a really fun visit. It's always great. We love connecting with our international friends. And we were the first sustainable wine growing certification program in California and the first American program to certify vineyards outside of the US, which happened in 2017 when Victor Schoenfeld from Golan Heights joined after he searched the world for the most rigorous, scientifically sound program and landed on Lodi Rules. So we were really happy to have our Israeli colleagues certify vineyards, and that's still happening today. Number 3, save the old vines. I don't know if any of you watching are interested in wine produced from old vine vineyards. I know that Chris and I are. So one thing that the Lodi Rules program does is for the vineyards that it certifies, it offers the buyers, it offers the owners, the farmers, more buyers to choose from potentially, because there's certain wine grape buyers out there who are looking for certified sustainable grapes. So that has a negotiation value. So we have a lot of historic vineyards in Lodi, California, and throughout California. And you'll notice, you can tell that they're older vineyards because if you look at the vines, they're thicker, usually thicker trunks, and they are not on a trellising system like younger vineyards, more modern vineyards are. Oftentimes they're also own rooted. And some of these vines have been in the ground since before Prohibition. So we just consider them these wonderful treasures. And the Lodi Winegrape Commission created a website, if you're interested to learn more, called savetheold.com about these vineyards. And there's also a fantastic organization called the Historic Vineyard Society if you want to learn more. But unfortunately, these vineyards are still getting pulled out. And that's why it's important that programs like Lodi Rules and the Historic Vineyard Society recognize the value that they have and do what we can to help them find wine grape buyers to purchase those grapes so that the vineyard is profitable and can stay in the ground. Number 4, we translated the Lodi Rules standards into Spanish. I am maybe the most excited about this piece of news because it also just happened last week on Monday, and we had this lovely gentleman from South America named Andres Valera do the actual translation, but then I had to read the 138 plus pages, and it's fantastic to practice my Spanish. But reading our standards, if you've ever tried, I don't know if you have, Antoinette, in English is hard enough, but reading them in Spanish was a whole nother ball game. So we actually have that finished now. We passed it over on a flash drive to our Uruguayan friends. They were thrilled. And now we'll have that. We'll make that publicly available as soon as I find time to write a press release so that we can start incorporating our Spanish-speaking friends into what we do a little bit more. And number 5, we're also engaging the next generation. So as you know, it's super important to us that our children learn how to farm sustainably and why we do it. That's the #1 reason why a farmer joins the Lodi Rules program, is because they want to leave a legacy for the next generation. So we always talk about, why are you doing this? Why are you farming sustainably? And that's always the #1 reason that pops up. In fact, our motto is, may we farm in a way that meets the needs of today without compromising the ability of future generations to create their own livelihoods. So this is Aaron Shin pictured on the right with his daughter. And Chris knows this little guy. So there's Chris's son, Finn, on the top left, next to his buddy, Declan, also a child of a Lodi Rules farmer. This is a couple of weekends ago. They were harvesting Chris's Carignan in his old vine vineyard right by his house. And on the bottom right, the photo is of a Lace and Roots Fund co-hosted enrichment trip that we had for some Roots Fund scholars to try and encourage diversity in our wine industry and offer more connections and networking and new opportunities for a group of young new up-and-coming wine industry professionals. And LAI stands for Lodi Appellation Inclusion Collective. They have a website as well. And then we're really happy this year we were awarded a $250,000 grant from a Bay Area company called Genentech to design viticulture education for high schoolers. And the coolest part of this program is not only that we'll hopefully create more opportunities for more students for jobs in our ag industry. We have a lot of jobs open out here, but what's really neat is that those high schoolers are going to be able to earn college credit at no cost to their families so that they can start their post-high school career without as much college debt. We're hoping that is, we're hoping to launch this in the next year. We're working with our local school district as well as our local community college. Number 6, we're working with other sustainability programs to engage consumers. So I hope you'll be happy about this. I know it's confusing. There's a lot of different programs out there, a lot of different logos, a lot of different seals, and we hear there needs to be one definition. It needs to be like, we're just all so confused, and I totally understand that confusion. So instead of just promoting Lodi Rules by itself, we see a lot of value in promoting sustainable farming and sustainable wine growing. So we created this graphic that is now displayed for the months of September and October in a grocery store chain here in Northern California called Nugget Markets. It's kind of like a Whole Foods that you have on the East Coast. And we included the other programs in our infographic, and this art is designed by artists named Michael Mullen, who's just fantastic. So we're constantly thinking of ways of how can we communicate the message. So if you have more ideas for us, I'm going to show you some examples, but if you have more ideas for us, we would really love to hear those. What would help you? Number 7, we're growing. So gosh, in 2005, Chris, you'll remember this, there were just 6 pioneer farmers and about 1,500 acres certified in our program in Lodi. And today we have hundreds of farmers and over 50,000 acres that are getting certified sustainable under the program in California, Washington State, and Israel. And one of our proudest accomplishments is putting money back into the pockets of farmers who receive bonuses from their wine grape buyers for certified grapes. And we've tracked over $10 million paid as those bonuses. The farmers are very happy about that. New growers and wine grape buyers join our sustainability community every year, and our returning growers continue to certify more and more acres of their vineyards. Thank you, Chris. The program has grown because the farmers, the winemakers, and our industry are receiving value from sustainability certification, and they are dedicated to helping the program succeed. We're also welcoming new wineries who choose to bottle certified sustainable grapes and use a Lodi Rules or California Rules seal on their wine label. This bottle right here, if you can see my little video part, this is Chris and I's friend Garrett Schaefer. He's also a Lodi Winegrape Commission board member. His family has this wine label called Alliance. It's an old vine Zinfandel, and he just brought this bottle into my office yesterday because he was so excited to show me that the Lodi Rules seal is now on the label. So I told you this was current exciting news. There you go. So please look for these seals on the back of the bottle. Please go into your wine shops and say, hey, do you have any wine that's made from certified sustainable grapes? It's really interesting to see the reaction. I think we still have a lot of educating our trade. So again, that's why we're so excited that Antoinette, you were taking the time to learn all of this and share that knowledge and really make sure it's meaningful. Number 8, we're bringing back ancient farming practices. So earlier this year, we hosted a family field day at Schulenburg Vineyard to teach farmers how to use sheep for weed management around bud break, which is super fun. We'll have a video coming out about that soon. And Chris and I are very big fans of these 2 outstanding scientists, Dr. Tim Gottwald and Dr. Neil McRoberts, and their quest to train dogs to detect viruses in vineyards. So maybe you've heard that dogs can detect seizures before they happen in people, and people have medical dogs. Well, dogs also can detect diseases in our world of agriculture. So we're super excited about this. I remember being in an airport, maybe in LA or somewhere, and Chris called me up because he had just heard a seminar from Dr. Gottwald. He was so excited, and I was pacing around the airport, and I thought we were just nerding out to the extreme, but that's what we do. So we really think this ancient canine technology is crucial for keeping our vineyards healthy. I thought you might want a cute picture of a vineyard dog. So number 9, we're creating fun educational tools. I've kind of already alluded to a couple of those, but I wanted to show you some more. So it took many, many, many years, lots of time, considerable effort by the visionary farmers of the Lodi region, leadership and wisdom from Chris, Dr. Cliff Omar, Steve Mathiasen, you may have heard of him. They all authored the Lodi Wine Growers Workbook, which later laid the foundation for the Lodi Rules program. And a lot of money to create a rigorous, science-based, farmer-friendly, sustainable wine growing certification program. I'm not sure if the New Zealanders told you about this, but yeah, it's a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort to create these programs. And now that the program has great success with participation from growers and wineries, and it's recognized academically and scientifically from people around the world, it's really been time for us to communicate what all of this means to the media, the trade, and the consumers. So we created maybe the first consumer targeted website for a sustainable wine growing program a few years ago called lodirules.org. And then we've also created all kinds of eye-catching educational promo items like this pop-top water bottle pictured on the left. And then this hydro flask, which was Chris's great idea in the center, and some sustainability bingo cards that we used in this April for Down to Earth Month and for, we call it Down to Earth Month in California for the wine community. Since during COVID, people couldn't really, there weren't a lot of things to do. So you could stay in your car, but you could do this bingo game to try and see the different elements of sustainability as you drive through Lodi wine country. Everyone always asks us, we want to see sustainability. So we're trying to show you for sure. And this, we're not going to play it, but I just wanted to show you, this is a video that you can see. You can go to lodirules.org and check out. And it's where children of our farmers and vineyards explain sustainability. It's total grassroots, low budget. I think it costs us $750, but well-produced video. And it was my birthday in January, I remember, and I sat down with a glass of wine and texted all of my friends who have kids, and they came over and just talked about what does sustainability mean. And it was so cute because without any prompting, they actually got it. They got the message. We got some silly answers too, but they got the message, which is so important to us. So I hope you get to check that video out. And then last but not least, number 10, we launched something called the Modern Farmer Series for profitability education. The role of the farmer is just really evolved from driving a tractor and spending most of your time outdoors in the vineyard, to now the farmer has to be, a social media guru, an environmental steward, a tour guide, research and development lead, a salesperson, the HR department, etc. And so it's just really hard for farmers to learn all of these skills in what's actually a pretty short period of time, just a few decades, so that they can be profitable and successful. So we're trying to help them with that. We've developed countless grower marketing tools to help the farmers communicate the value of their sustainability certification to the buyers, to their neighbors, to their community, and to the general public and consumers. So one of the newest tools that I think you will all appreciate is called a vineyard tech sheet. So it's similar to a wine tech sheet, and this is pictured on the right. One example from our friend Phil Abba, who's now the committee chair for the Lodi Rules Committee. So it describes the vineyard stats, which I know like some of us are really interested in. What is the planting date? What's the typical yield? What's the soil type? And then the tech sheet also tells the story of the vineyard and the farmer. And since many of our farmers have a hard time figuring out what that story is in a few sentences, we hired a professional storyteller to host workshops for them and pull those stories out of them. We think it's really crucial to get the stories of the vineyards and the farming families out into the world, not just the story of the wine, but really what's that farming story too. So we agree with Madeline that greater depth of information creates greater depth of passion. And you must feel the same way if you're watching this video right now. So we'd love to connect with you online. Here's some of the ways you can connect with us. And we'd also love to see you in Lodi for a visit in person where you could see sustainable farming in action and catch one of our lovely sunsets and meet some of our people. So with that, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully I was within the time zone there, the time window. And Chris, feel free to add anything you want to add, or maybe I'll let Chris answer the question.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Stephanie. That was amazing. And I'm just going to stop screen share. That's all right. And yes, so thank you, Stephanie. We have a couple of questions for you or for Chris. The first question is, does having a high quality sustainability standard better prepare a winemaker for climate change realities? And how might these sustainability standards impact the day-to-day decision-making of the winemaker as well as the entire supply chain? It's a fun one.
Chris, do you want to start and I'll jump in if needed, since I just talked everyone's ear off and I didn't let you chime in there too much?
Sure. I don't know if I can speak to what we're doing in the vineyard, how it reacts, or how a winemaker would react to that, since we're farmers and a winemaker takes our product and makes wine out of it. So some of us, like myself, are disconnected from the actual winemaking process. But I can tell you the impact that we're having in the vineyard is helping to reduce our carbon footprint. And in turn, that should help a winemaker sell more wine, hopefully, to people who find that important, which we all should. So yeah, it's things like what I was talking about with the cover crops, or bringing sheep in to do the mowing instead of burning fuel with a mower, a vineyard mower. They're also depositing some fertilizer out there, which is really nice, especially if they're coming off of an alfalfa field. They deposit fertilizer all over the vineyard. Means we don't have to mine it from somewhere else and bring it in on a truck. So there's a lot of different practices that we're employing. Just about every practice we employ is doing something for indirectly or directly to climate change and to reduce our carbon footprint. So I don't know, Stephanie, you probably have something more to say.
Yeah, no, I think you did a great job, Chris. Absolutely, what's happening with these sustainability programs is helping everyone, from the farmers to the winemakers, adapt to changes, because we have a community of people who learn together. And that's kind of the definition of sustainability, right? You want to make sure that it's something that can be viable for a long time. If the farmers aren't taking care of the environment and their people, and they're not profitable, the wineries will not have quality grapes to make wine out of. So it's definitely all connected. And one fun thing about Lodi is that we have so many different grape varieties. So I think in Europe, they're having such a hard time navigating the strict rules of this grape variety can grow in this particular region. And we're wide open and adventurous. And so we're learning what grape varieties are good for today and what varieties may be good for the future. And that also includes rootstocks, which Chris is part of a group we have that's studying drought tolerant rootstocks, et cetera, as well.
Perfect. And speaking about what's coming in the future, looking forward, what does sustainable viticulture look like 5 or 10 years from now?
I'll take that. Well, I think there's going to be less people in the vineyard, and maybe not so much less farmer in the vineyard, meaning the farmer might actually get to spend more time in the vineyard. You saw that graphic that Stephanie showed of all those things that the modern farmer has to do, from the social media to HR support and managing people. and so much time is spent in the office looking at a computer that the farmer doesn't actually get that much time to get out into the vines, or as much time as they would like. And so in the future, I think what we're going to see is fewer people, which means less management. You might be managing a fleet of autonomous vehicles, a fleet of drones, a fleet of something that is not a person. You may have a very technologically savvy person running that fleet, but it gives you an opportunity to gather more data, make better decisions, make timelier decisions. All of that means you're reducing your costs, you're reducing your resources, your inputs, and increasing your production. So with better data, we can manage these vines better, and in the end, farm less expensively with less inputs, and all of that is more sustainable.
Stephanie, anything to add?
Yeah, I see that vineyard in Chris's mind for sure, with less people in it, but I kind of see two paths, Chris. Like I see one path being maybe our larger vineyards are more automated and mechanized like that, and maybe there's also going to be our smaller vineyards that have more have a little bit more of a human touch, because hopefully the consumer will learn the value of paying a higher price for the wine that is tended in a way where there are you know, they're just two paths. I think, I don't know if that made sense, but
yeah, I think the path that I'm suggesting is more clinical, less
romantic. Yeah. I mean, we see that with our food as well. Like, you can go into the one store and you can pay, you know, $1 for a bunch of carrots. Maybe not today, maybe $3. But I think the other day I bought Brussels sprouts from a fancy grocery store, and I think I paid $1 a Brussels sprout. So it's just but it depends on, you know, we have to have a strong economy for that to make sense and for that to happen. So I think there's different paths. I've really thought about this a lot, different paths to profitability. And what's nice with sustainability and the certification program is that it works for the smaller vineyards and the larger vineyards. So the smallest vineyard in our program is a 1-acre vineyard in Carmel Valley that just joined this year. And then Chris's company represents the largest acreage for one organization, which is thousands of acres. And that doesn't mean that it's thousands of acres in one piece. So it's all different scales and many different, going into different quality programs, and some of the smaller vineyards are going into a lower end like less expensive bottles, and some of the larger vineyards are going into higher, more expensive bottles. So that's not a price point match, but there's different models of the vineyard of the future. But you have to take care of whatever people you have, because labor is such an issue, and you have to take care of the environment, or you won't be able to keep farming the land. And I think we're going to see greater diversity of species within a vineyard. That's something I think we're going to keep seeing more of, because we've seen the benefits of that, and we've seen what happens when you have a monoculture, and how invasive insects and pests and diseases can just spread like wildfire in those cases. So I think we have to increase our biodiversity.
It seems, my perspective is that the system always naturally corrects. And I almost want to say it's a combination of both scenarios, because as much as we would love everything to be super simple and automated and profitable, there's always a couple of back steps to that human touch, and whatever that means for the industry. And I know there are so many different parts of winemaking that it's impossible just to say, well, vineyard management and winemaking, but there is an importance to highlight human touch and expertise that computers will facilitate and do facilitate, but cannot and do not replace completely. And if they did, we wouldn't have the pleasure of having two experts join us this evening. Stephanie Bolton, thank you so much. Chris Storm, thank you very much for joining us. And for those joining us or viewing, we thank you so much for your time. And we look forward to our next Sustainability in Wine Country event with California Land Stewardship Institute, hosted by Laurel Marcus, the Executive Director of this nonprofit. Before we say good night and goodbye, Stephanie and Chris, are there any final thoughts you would like to share with us this evening?
I'd like to say, keep up the great work, Antoinette. We need hundreds more of you to spread this word. We're busy doing the sustainability and the farming practices, and it's really hard to be the people who do it and the people who communicate it doing both well. So we really, really appreciate that. And Chris, thank you so much for taking time out of harvest to join us as well.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, Antoinette. And I would say, let's take this on the road. Bring some of your patrons out to California, and we'll show them a really good time and show them the vineyard of the future.
Some excellent wines coming out of Lodi, and it's a region that everyone should keep at least one eye on. So again, thanks. Program details for anyone looking to attend our future events may be found on our website at corkandfork.co under our calendar. Thank you again for joining us, and take care, everyone. We'll see you again. See you in Lodi, Chris and Stephanie. See you there.
That would be great. Have a good evening, Antoinette. Thank you.